Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters on That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. Joining me today is a special guest. It's Geoff Saavedra. How you doing, brother?
Hey, doing fine. As fine as I can in the hospital.
Yeah, that's actually first too. AKA, this guy is Titanosaur. How you doing?
Yes.
That's all good. I guess, how you been feeling recently? I guess this is the first time we're actually doing it out of a hospital.
um, yeah, I've been on the heart transplant list for a little over a year. Um, so I'm in and out of the hospital constantly. So never able to schedule things when I won't be in the hospital because I have no clue. So I just happened to be here for 2 weeks. Just been here for about 5 days. Got 2 more weeks to go. So.
Oh, God. I didn't know it was that serious, to be honest. I thought we were just getting treated or something. All right. All right. That's all good, though, I guess. You feeling okay right now?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm an unusual case. Uh, uh, I always tend to be an unusual case when it comes to medical stuff. I'm fine except for my heart. So luckily, all my organs are fine. Everything's fine, but my heart is just kind of crazy. So.
I see. That's all good to hear, man. Well, very good speedy recovery after the 2 weeks there, bud. And it'd be good to get you back in the music scene too. Because actually, did you recently come out with some new music recently?
So yeah, in at the end of September, came out with a new album called Echoes. Really excited about how it came out, and yeah, people are loving it. So maybe I'll start recording after this 2 week stint, and we'll see. Maybe in the middle of next year, probably put out another album.
Yeah, it sounds good. You got to elaborate more on your music in a little bit here, but just want to welcome you, Geoff, to my podcast right here. The way it's going to work is just going to get to know you more both as a musician and as an individual based on questions I had sent to you too. So hopefully I didn't keep you under anesthesia for too long. Otherwise, I think I'm going to have to see how you do on this test right here. So you ready?
Yep.
All right. So I'll start with the first one right here. This one does get a little deep, but I guess who are you? How did you become a musician that you are today?
Well, let's see. There's a picture of me when I was like 1 year old, sitting on the floor with a big giant bass on my lap. I always bring that up, so that's the beginning. Um, I always loved music. I would raid my uncle's record collection when I was 6, and so I got introduced to Black Sabbath, Sex Pistols, Ramones, Queen. Um, those were the ones that with me. David Bowie. Um, and I knew that I wanted to play music when I heard Queen's Brighton Rock. Um, and Brian May, there's this break in the song, and Brian May starts playing out of each speaker using the stereo. And I wanted to do that. So that's where the whole idea for a guitar started. And then later on, when I actually had a guitar, the Ramones were the biggest influence for me. Learning how to play, pretty simple, in quotes, and bar chords. So that was the easiest thing. And then Soundgarden taught me how to do drop D. So now I'm in drop C nowadays. But that's pretty much the trajectory. I've always wanted to play music. As far as vocals, because I had to do it all. I'm a one-man band. So as far as vocals go, I mean, I didn't start off wanting to do vocals. I would always sing along with songs and stuff like that, but never envisioned myself as a lead person. So I always had somebody else singing my songs. But when I had to do the one-man band thing, I had no choice. So then I started working on the vocals as well, and it helps me a lot to do the vocals. So I not only am on the heart transplant list, but I'm also autistic. And one of the things I've dealt with my whole life is violent meltdowns. And a great way to avoid that is, for me, singing and playing really loud music. So that's one of the reasons why I make the kind of music that I make, is that it helps me get the energy out rather than destroying stuff.
I would say metal and I guess sort of autism goes in a way because you're able to destroy stuff too, and then be like, that's so metal, man. So I can see what you mean too. Yeah, autism is pretty tough too because I actually do know some family who are autistic as well too, and it's hard really to cope with it too because you can't really like interact with them in certain ways, even though you want to try to like talk to them and do that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it all depends. Everybody's different. Even every autistic person is different. My whole family, my family is neurodivergent. My wife has ADHD. My oldest kid has ADHD. My youngest kid is autistic. And we've navigated the world, but how we're affected makes it easier to live in the world as opposed to some other people who have more difficulties.
Yeah, I see. Especially now with the heart transplant too, it's just now an added layer of difficulty too, just trying to overcome that as well.
Well, I definitely have some sensory issues. Being in a hospital, especially when I'm in an area of the hospital where you can't take a shower, that drives me nuts. But luckily I got moved to an area that I can take showers, so now I'm good.
It's funny when it's about sensory because ironically, when I'm actually doing my main job during the day, if the music's like playing in the background, someone's like trying to talk to me or like teach me something new, I can't do it for some reason. Like the music's just too loud. It's overtaking me first. So I don't work well in like a cacophony sort of environments. So I think that's my sensory problem as well too. So hey, like I said, everybody's different. So
yeah,
what are you gonna do? I guess let's go ahead and jump into the music. So I guess first off, why Titanosaur? Were you real big into dinosaurs back in the day?
So I started Titanosaur in 2018. I had been doing this other goth industrial metal kind of band, one-man band also. But it was very dark, and I really wanted to do more fun stuff, punk, rock and roll stuff. So I decided to start something new, and I needed a good name that would give a sense of the kind of music I was going to make. And with my kids, we went through a whole list. I decided dinosaurs would be a good idea. There's so many bands in the hard rock, heavy metal, stoner rock scene that have dinosaur names, so it's really hard to find one. And I remember that I had just seen a documentary on the Titanosaur, and then that sounded like a great name, so I ran with that. Here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess how would you define your genre nowadays in terms of the music you're doing with Titanosaur?
Well, I've really gotten a foot in the stoner metal scene. Apparently, I'm considered sludge metal, doom metal. I don't see it, but hey, that helps people find me. Then okay. For me, it's really I'm just filtering Motorhead through my Black Sabbath filter. So I'm just doing hard rock, but yeah, stoner metal, doom metal, something like that is what I've been told.
I always got a kick out of stoner and sludge in terms of like the genre names they give, because I think it actually started with the whole thing in Louisiana. I don't know who would be classified as the first though, but I think it was like Down. I think they would call like that was Phil Anselmo's second project. I was also trying to remember like a couple other ones too, because
Crowbar is considered sludge metal too.
That's true. Yeah, can't forget about Kirk Weinstein. Those guys.
Yeah.
I guess would you say those were your biggest influences growing up, or I guess pretty much everyone in general, from like Sabbath to Motorhead, as you mentioned earlier?
Well, the biggest influence is probably the Ramones and Killing Joke. I know Killing Joke is actually considered goth industrial, but they're a huge influence for me. And the older they got, the angrier the recordings got, which was fantastic. And the Ramones, Johnny's pop sensibility when he was writing songs, Dee Dee's lyrics, which could go in many different directions, and just the speed, which was mainly about trying to keep the crowd entertained. So all of those things Motorhead really is about the style of vocal that Lemmy was doing, and again also the songwriting. So those three are probably the biggest influences that I have when I'm writing.
I always think like a couple songs like the first one comes from Motorhead is always the "I'm so bad, baby, I don't care." That's their one. I should have made to do a drum cover on that one. That would be funny.
Well, for me, I really got into Motorhead with the album 1916 in high school. So No Voices in the Sky was a huge favorite of mine. And actually, with another band called Demon Scar, we do a Motorhead cover every year. And this year we did Born to Raise Hell. Somewhere around August is when we release it. Still don't know what we're going to do next year, but Born to Raise Hell was a lot of fun to put together.
I guess who did the Ice-T part? Because I do remember it was him and Motorhead, and who else was in it?
I don't know, but we just did the straight Motorhead version. We didn't have the Ice-T part in there.
Well, or at least so I just sang the part, but just sang it like a Lemmy sort of style.
I don't know.
Something like that too.
I did the first. I did the first verse. The other band, Demon Scar, did the second verse. So.
All right, fair enough. And the Killing Joke, was that the one who did Total Invasion?
Yes, that was one of their songs off of the album they did with Dave Grohl.
You know, I actually remember the cover version. It was actually Behemoth who had actually covered that song. And
I have not heard that.
It's a little bit heavier, to be honest, but it's at least more fun to play on drums than it would be. I don't know how the production was, to be honest. In fact, I'm not too familiar with the Killing Joke outside of that one song, and that's still a cover. So,
well, yeah, the cover that most people know is Metallica doing "The Weight" for Garage Days.
Yeah, the Garage Incorporated, I think that was what it was. They did like a whole bunch of cover ones. I think, I remember the Merciful Fate one they did, which is like a whole medley of this Merciful Fate songs too, and that was pretty killer.
Yeah.
So, I guess who was the first band you saw live?
Well, it's I can't remember if it was the Ramones or Pink Floyd. The Ramones were playing across the street from my grandmother's house when I was about when I was about 14, and it was a Catholic school gym that they were playing in. They were warming up. They had just gotten CJ as the new bassist, so they were warming up for a tour. And so I saw them there. That was the first time I saw anybody live, and I was blown away. Or it could have been Pink Floyd, because those were two concerts that happened somewhere around the same time. Pink Floyd were on tour for the Delicate Sound of Thunder tour, and that was fantastic.
I think sadly the only album I knew with Pink Floyd was Dark Side of the Moon. That's because a kid at my school would wear a sweater and a shirt of Pink Floyd every day. It wouldn't matter if it was summer or whether it was like wintertime or anything like that. It would always be Dark Side of the Moon. So that's always the first one I think of with Pink Floyd, to be honest. So tragic, I know. So
most people think The Wall or
The Wall, yeah.
Dark
Money.
Side of the Moon. Yeah.
Or that one too, yeah. And was there a lot of controversy with the Ramones? Because I think when I was checking out their interview with Johnny Ramone, I think he was talking about how, actually I think it was more of the questions were kind of directed to be like their bassist was maybe a little over the top doing this and that too. So,
well, yeah, Dee Dee had a drug problem. That's why he got lost the earpiece. That's why he got booted from the band. And then Johnny Ramone had a penchant for collecting Nazi memorabilia, so that was kind of a little bit weird.
That was actually what Jeff Hanneman and Lemmy, that's what they would do. They would also collect Nazi memorabilia as well.
Yep, Lemmy also, yeah.
I have to honestly check, because I thought I heard some sort of rumor someone I knew had like a sort of an SS officer or something like that, which would be interesting. Not too sure. I think it's a rumor, so don't take my word for it. But I digress. We'll leave it at that too. So I guess let's jump into this one right here. I guess since it seems like you grew up pretty much listening to music, and I guess from the beginning it was like I want to be like a musician, that sort of thing. I guess what is it that you loved most about music that made you want to be like I want to be a musician for the rest of my life?
It really is about the feeling I get in my chest. When it's a good song, I can really feel it in my whole body, and being able to write songs like that for myself um, is huge. I'm always surprised when I put together a song and I listen back to it. I'm like, oh my god, that's a great part. That's it. Um, but yeah, it's really about the feeling. I mean, I definitely like songs that are quieter. Like Tom Petty, really likes a lot of Tom Petty stuff. Like I said, Pink Floyd. But those also make me feel stuff, just not the aggression that heavy metal does.
I guess what's the farthest you gone with heavy metal? I guess did you kind of go to dark depths, Slayer, and then maybe a little beyond that?
Well, I guess the most intense, or whatever you want to call it, is probably Sepultura. I saw them when they were on tour for Beneath the Remains back in 90s, early 90s, I think.
I mean, that one was like 83, maybe. Because I think they were right around that time too.
It might have been for Rise, but yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember getting to that show. It was a show in Brooklyn. I live in Queens. It was a show in Brooklyn. Me and my friend went. You had to take like 3 trains to get there. And then by the time the show was over, there was only one train running, and we had to wait like an hour for it on the platform because it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. But we ended up getting home while the sun was rising. So Sepultura is probably the most, I don't know, which is heavier, Strapping Lad or Sepultura. I don't know, but I listen to that stuff.
I would say I think Strapping Young Lad may be a tad bit darker, but I think heavier definitely with Sepultura because they were definitely influenced with like the metal scene in general coming out of the 80s. So they helped really build, and Max Cavalera like putting it all together too. He he just really set it off, to be honest too, just for lack of a better term. He knew what he was doing. So
well, yeah, it was a great combination of 4 guys. when he left and started Soulfly, the first Soulfly album, you could tell was like, all right, so the guys in Sepultura were kind of reining him in, and they ended up with great sort of pop songs because they had a start, a middle, and an end, and it kept moving. With Soulfly, it was much more jammy kind of stuff. But he refined that as he went on. But yeah, Sepultura is definitely a huge influence on many people, I'm sure.
no, you ain't lying. I still love it when they play Territory, regardless even if it's like covered from like it's just I know what was like Between the Buried and Me did I cover that. It actually sounded pretty good. So and that's pretty tough too, with especially when you hear the drums begin. So I'm thinking to myself, oh geez, yeah, right. And I'm even a drummer too, and I'm thinking like, oh boy, that's a nightmare. So, so that's all good. Good choices. I will have to admit that. I do have to ask though, since you got a heart transplant, does it feel weird or a little different whenever you try to make music from the heart?
Well, it's more about volume because the last show I went to was probably like 15 years ago now. It was like 10 years ago to see Queens of the Stone Age. And I felt the pounding of the bass from the speakers in my chest, and that was kind of weird. That's one of the reasons that was the last show I went to. So that's about it. Other than that, I mean, playing, I get out of breath right now. So yeah, I get tired more easily. I pretty much only have about 3 hours in a day to create music, and that's in the morning. That's when I have the most energy, so I can breathe better and get more energy through the guitar playing. So not necessarily what the heart feels, but it's my whole body feels.
different as well. Yeah, I can see what you mean. All right, and it's good to see you're doing well too. So, like I said, it'd be nice to get you out there and then see you do a new album for 2024. New and improved Titanosaur. I guess is that how you pronounce it?
I mean, everybody pronounces it slightly different. I pronounce it Titanosaur,
Titanosaur.
like a titan.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. I'll try to do that, but I think at some point during this interview I'm going to mess it up again. So
Yeah.
at least in that case, you probably charge me $1 for it. So all right. All right. I think the biggest concern, considering you did go through heart transplant and something like that too, I guess would have been COVID. So I guess how bad was it when COVID came around?
Well, I hadn't been listed yet. We didn't know that my heart was that bad yet during COVID. It was crazy because as soon when COVID really hit and everything shut down, my wife and my youngest were in another country and everything started shutting down. We started getting really worried and nervous about how they were going to get back home. And then there were all these rumors that they would be stuck there for months, and who knew? So that was more stressful than anything health related wise. I live in upstate New York. I have 2 acres, so I'm not really surrounded by anybody. I can be outside during the isolation period that everybody had. I don't think I would have been able to do it if I was stuck in an apartment here in Manhattan. I would have gone nuts.
Actually, which part of New York was it? You said upstate. Is that like close to like Albany?
Yeah, it's actually before you get to Albany. It's on the way to Albany.
Yeah, I see. Actually, we've been up there a couple times at Saratoga Springs. Very beautiful place to go check out too. Then we actually shot up through the Adirondacks to go up to Montreal afterwards too. It's a beautiful countryside, but boy, the cellular reception can be terrible at times.
Oh yeah, all the mountains. Yeah.
That's good. It's good to see you're doing well too. So I guess you didn't have any brushes with it. Everyone was all good.
Yeah. We looked out. We didn't have any issues. It was only like what was it? 6 months ago in February that we got COVID. February of this year that we got COVID. All of us. It was rough.
I think for you it would have been scary too. I don't know how it does. Did they do anything different with your heart?
Well, it caused me to have more tachycardia, which is when your heart skips beats and goes really fast. So it caused me to have that. And I ended up in the hospital and they had to do what's called a cardioversion, which I've now had 3 times, which is they'll basically electrocute you to get your heart back into rhythm. So that's a lot of fun.
It's like take 2 wires, just shove them right in your chest right there. So, man.
Well, it's the paddles that
it is the paddles.
Use. Yeah.
I think I remember watching Scrubs. I think they always did like funny jokes with like those big pads and everything too. I think one they actually tried out a guy he didn't really need it. He just did it. Just woke the guy up. It must have hurt like hell or something like that. So it's good to see you're doing well too. So best luck to you going forward. And I guess this one, kind of ties in with it. Considering what you're going through health-wise, and I guess even with your autism too, I guess what would you say has been your biggest challenge being an indie musician?
Well, being a one-man band has really been the challenge because, not only do I write the music, I record the music, I do the artwork, and then I have to promote and I have to get people to learn about Titanosaur and want to hear it. So that's really the tough part. With social media, having to be on every platform and reach as many people as I can and try to be consistent. That's one of the things that I think being autistic is trouble with. Is trying to come up with stuff to say, because I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I have to repeat myself because not everybody sees the first post. And it's just really difficult and overwhelming a lot. So that's the hardest thing to deal with.
I see. And you mentioned earlier, have you been a part of like a couple of bands already? And like you just didn't like being part of like those multi musicians or anything too? I guess how come you don't want to like add band members to your current music project?
Well, I would love to have an actual band. The goth industrial metal band that I basically had from 2004 up until 2018. It started off as a band, but then I moved upstate for mental health issues reasons because it was just too much living in the city for me. So we moved upstate, and I was alone, so I had no choice. But my hope is that once I do get a heart transplant, that I'll have much more energy and actually be able to put a band together and potentially play out. So that'd be fun.
I guess if you want to go into some of the bands you've been a part of, I guess go ahead.
Oh well. Actually, I guess I should mention. Okay. So the Reagan Girls is the goth metal industrial band, and I'm actually just got together with a goth industrial label that's going to release 3 new songs from that project sometime next year. So that's exciting. So the Reagan Girls, it's one of those things that we pick the name so that it would grab people's attention, and everybody goes, "Well, where's the girl?" It's like a guy singing with my voice, that really gruff voice that I have. But before that, I was in a punk band called the Orgasmobots, which we shortened to Obots. And yeah, just a bunch of college and high school bands before that.
I think funny enough, the ones you said, like the Raven Girls and then the Reagan Girls, I think you just said they transitioned, that sort of thing. Considering how these days people are like transitioning between like being, or they want to now be called like a man, or a woman wants to be called a man, and then a man wants to be a female, or that sort of thing too. So you probably could have made that joke, but I don't think it would have aged well at this point.
Well, and the thing is that we always, when we were playing as a live band, we always played the goth scene. So part of the goth scene is transvestites and lots of leather, and I mean, so that's and also living in New York, that's all normal. So
I think I can imagine. I mean, I think I was in New York does have a pretty extensive music scene as well, and I think for the Orgasmobots, I think Orgasmatron, was that the inspiration for it from Motorhead?
So I'm not sure what the inspiration was for that one. It was another time when I was in the hospital, and we were supposed to play this really big festival, and I was like, I will get into a wheelchair and play this festival. At that time, we were a heavy metal band. But when I was in the hospital and we were talking back and forth, I was like, this isn't really working. And we decided there that after that show, that big show, we would be a punk band, and just started throwing around names. And we were, 3 idiotic 20-somethings and decided to go with Orgasmobots.
So obviously like 3 Holden Caulfields just being like, oh, we'll just roll with this name. People won't really care, no matter how controversial you think it might be.
It was really tough for me because I was like embarrassed about having to say it, especially since I was the one who was booking the shows. I'd have to tell the bookers, we're called the Orgasmobots. And none of the bookers ever spelled it right anyway, so we just shortened it to Obots.
I guess for better or worse. I think it was.
Yeah.
So, actually, I do remember. I think the album cover was like a train. It was just running on the rails. It's the Motorhead cover for Orgasmatron too. Just picturing you guys are probably would have something like that for like your album cover too.
So yeah, we had we wanted to create like this a logo basically. So it was this sort of Frankenstein type of robot head. It was punk. It was very like sketchy, all of it.
We don't really care. That's everything too. So I was like, we don't give a fuck. So
exactly.
Forget about it. That sort of thing. All right, that's all good too. So I guess you still stay in touch with some of those guys, or they've all moved on with different parts of their lives?
Well, one of the people in that band was is my best friend. That we've been together. We've known each other for 48 years. So yeah, we still talk to each other. The other guy, he I don't know, he disappeared. And then we had a rotating. We kept saying that our drummer keeps exploding because we had to find a new drummer like every month. So
Spontaneously combust or something like
yeah.
that. That's unfortunate. But I guess what sort of social media, I guess, do you use these days in order to like promote your music? I guess what you have to do back then in order to promote your music.
Well, back then, MySpace was just starting out, so it was MySpace. Um, but yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, it was just overwhelming, and I was having other issues. But nowadays, I'm Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I have a TikTok for Titanosaur, but I don't post a lot there because I can't come up with something every day to film and put up there. It's just impossible. So those are the ones that you can find me on anytime. They're all the same handle, Titanosaur Rocks.
He's already jumping ahead. That was about to be the last thing we talk about in the interview. That's all good though.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, thanks for sharing that too. I do have to ask, is somebody dressed up as your mascot or is that all AI? And like some of the pictures I was seeing on your social media.
No, I have a mask. Sometimes I used to do it a lot more before my heart started going downhill, but it's really hard to breathe in the thing. So like, as soon as I put it on, I'm out of breath. So I stopped really using it. But yeah, it used to be either me or my youngest uh, wearing the mask. Um, and then like back in 2018, my friend had gotten one of those inflatable dinosaur T-Rex things that you wear and then it inflates. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious, so I asked if I could borrow it. And so my youngest is in that. I filmed them running away. So there were a few promo things in 2018 that used that suit, but for the most part, it's when it looks real, it's me in the mask or my youngest in the mask. But the logo itself, I also had designed.
That's so badass. Actually, would you do like a promotional sort of videos if it was like Jurassic Park, for instance? Maybe do like one of those classic chase scenes.
Well, there was a point when I first started a TikTok account, I had no idea what else to do, so I actually would take clips of movies and just stick the Titanosaur head in there as one of the characters. But for some reason, I never thought of Jurassic Park. But that's a possibility.
I'll say you got Letterface with the Titanosaur head, just chasing everybody with a chainsaw. It's a good horse stick. Maybe we could probably make that work. So that's all good. And I was trying to remember what else because I'll probably have to think about it at some point. I had the question there and I lost it. It went right out of my mind. So I guess here, let's jump into this one. Maybe it'll come back to me at some point. But what advice would you give to other musicians in our indie community and I guess up and coming musicians as well?
I would say have fun. Have fun. Make sure you're having fun making the music. Yeah, a lot of it is grueling. A lot of the business is hard, but have fun making the music. Part of my problem in a lot of the bands ended up being that I was so lost in the business side that I didn't allow myself to have fun while we were doing some great shows or even writing the songs. And it comes through. So if you're having fun, if you're having a good time, it'll come out in the song and it'll be able to translate.
Yeah, I think the problem is I think you always want to like focus on the financial side first before you realize like you're having fun with it too. Because this is the only job you're doing. Like, do you work another job?
Uh, no, I'm officially disabled. So I was working a part-time job for a while, but yeah, for the past year, 2 years, it's just the music.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Actually, first off, I guess, when did you recently join like our band together indie community group? Was it Christina and Greg who invited you on? Or did you just find it by accident?
I believe it was. Well, I have joined so many different things over the past year that I might be mixing it up, but I think I had seen another band that I follow had an interview with Christina, and that's how I followed her. And then the whole band together thing started. So I went there. Something like that.
And here we are. So
And here we are.
yeah, it all worked out at the end. So that's all good.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember if it was like one of your posts for like a new song or something like that that actually led me to it. Plus, even though we got like over like 5,000, probably close to 6,000 at this point in our band together group, I figured, yeah, I'll try this guy out. At the time, I actually didn't know you were in the hospital at the time too. So actually, I think it was when you just mentioned it this morning, I was thinking like, oh geez, well this is definitely going to be a first. So
Yeah.
all right. Let's figure. Let's hope we don't lose him here. I mean, we don't want to have this be like Grey's Anatomy on TV right now. So
Nah.
all right, that's all good. And I do want to thank you so much for coming on here, mate. This really means a lot.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You know, looking at it in retrospect too, especially as we start to draw close on the year, I've realized first off how blessed I've been, but sometimes like not as blessed as people have been that I've interviewed too. Some people have gone through depression, maybe drug problems. You with the heart transplant and maybe autism as well. It's definitely good. And I actually, one of the jobs I did when we were doing orientation, he showed me a Chick-fil-A sort of video they put together where just like having those sorts of normal conversations, even just saying hello or something like that, really helps out because you don't know what that other person is feeling. So I definitely think going forward with the podcast here in 2024, I think definitely want to reach out to a lot more people and interact a lot more. So this is powerful stuff.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I tried to teach my kids as they were growing up. I was a stay-at-home dad, so I was the one taking them to the park and stuff. Something that I tried to teach them was you're not going to stare at people. If you want to look, then you have to talk. You have to say hi. Because staring, it makes the other person feel like there's something wrong. But if you say hello, then you can start a conversation. And it can really help somebody.
Absolutely too. So I really want to say New Year's resolution, but I don't know what number exactly to put on it, to be honest. So I will talk with as many people as I can before the year 2024 is done. So let's make it happen. All right. You know what? I did remember what I wanted to talk about earlier. It was going back to when you were talking about that inflatable suit you had for your mascot. There was actually something on Victoria Island in Canada, and they were actually doing, I want to say it was actually a little orchestra on the water because I don't want to say it was part of the Pacific Ocean yet because I think it was maybe a little bit out. It might have been something like that, but the orchestra was on the water. They were shooting off fireworks, and there's this random person walking around in this dinosaur suit, more like one of those velociraptors sort of thing. Actually, it came in our hotel. I think we were coming back from dinner or something like that too. We see it like walking around in our hotel lobby. So I'm thinking like, well, that's weird. It was like, and as soon as he brought it up too, I'm thinking like, oh man, that's why I brought it back too. So
yeah, I sometimes find these clips of people in those inflatable T-Rex suits like ice skating or doing something weird, and so I always find those hilarious. I don't know what it is about an inflatable T-Rex jumping around, but it's fun.
I don't know. That was like doing twirls up in the air.
Yeah.
You probably have the Spinosaurus next just holding it up and doing like the Olympic style sort of twirls or lifts or I guess whatever they call it in terms of the ice skating tricks or something like that. So, but I digress. We'll leave it at that too. I guess going to the next question right here. I guess what's the gear you use for your production?
Yeah, so I watched some of your interviews and people know what they're talking about with gear. I have no clue. I've been playing the same guitar for 30 years. I just get what works. Like I use GarageBand to record all this stuff because it's free. All the plugins that I use are free. But what I do know is that I have an AT2020 microphone that I use for singing, and also I used to do some voiceover work too. and Audio Technica monitors. And that's all I know that I have for gear. That and cables.
I mean, man, you just keep it simple. I mean, and I don't know. I want to say like you cheap motherfucker, that sort of thing. So
I mean, you got to be able to do what you got to do with what you have, and I've been for the past like few months. I've been saying we got to be able somehow to save enough money because I got to get a new guitar. I mean, I've had the same one for over 30 years. I need a new guitar.
I'm surprised it hasn't busted up on you because I think I had some of those guitars too, where like the bridge just like miraculously snapped off one day just because of a change in the weather or something like that.
Yeah, it's a Fender Strat, and yeah, it's been fine. And I play it with only 5 strings also, and that hasn't changed the intonation or anything.
Oh, you don't
As far
do
as
the traditional 6-string?
So the high E string broke off once, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and I never replaced it. I was like, I don't use it anyway, so what's the point? Because I didn't consider myself a lead guitarist, and any type of lead guitar that I did in the punk band was just making noise basically. So I've never used a high E string.
Actually, did you ever watch Tom and Jerry way back in the day?
Oh, of course.
Actually, you know about Uncle Pecos?
Yeah.
I was gonna say you just gotta pull a cat whisker and then just use that as your string. So
Sure. Got to
I mean,
find a cat with long enough whisker.
I mean, cartoon wise and cartoon physics, I mean, they could have made it as long as they wanted to. So
Oh yeah.
if we wanted to try to go that far, but I just remember I would say that was my favorite Tom and Jerry episode. But you do have to feel kind of bad for Tom being subjected to that sort of torture when you think about it. And actually, I think the one part where he starts like doing his own little solo, for instance, I always picture him then. If you take that music out and then put in like some of the music from like Aerosmith's "Sweet Emotion," for instance, for some reason I thought maybe that would have been interesting. Maybe as a joke. So
Maybe.
for some reason I picture that too. So I might just do a video as a joke and then just see what happens.
Somebody should try it.
All right, let's see what happens here. So I guess you probably did elaborate on like what your goals and plans are this year. So I guess once you're out of the hospital, I guess when you plan like doing the new album, you try to do it, maybe release it in the spring.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking of sometime probably late spring, early summer. I did plan out with my wife helps me plan out stuff because I get overwhelmed. So I will theoretically, if everything goes okay, have a new single at the end of January. But yeah, I've already got a lot of riffs put together and the skeleton bones of like 3 or 4 songs down. So I just got to finish them off basically. And I like to have at least 8 songs for an album, and at least put out three singles before that to build up to it. However, I am also theoretically working on a split album with this other band, but they are very slow. So we've been working on it for a year now. So I don't know when that'll come out. But that one's going to be great. That's going to be very like almost hardcore stuff. So that was going to be fun.
Who's the group? Is it one of the indie groups in our little Facebook group?
No, I met them. I met a lot of the bands on Instagram because that was one of the places I went to when I first started Titanosaur, and I found tons of people on Instagram. But I don't know if I'm allowed to say because we haven't made an announcement yet. So I don't know when that's going to happen, when they realize when they're closer to having it done, then I guess we'll make an announcement.
To be determined. All right. Let's make it happen. I'm actually kind of excited to see that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're a fellow New York band. That's all I think I can say.
I also want to ask about the New York sort of slang or anything like that too, because I'm from Pittsburgh, and we have like yins or yinzers, as we like to call like certain people, for instance. Does New York have any sort of slang for like certain fellow New York citizens or anything like that?
I have no idea. I mean, that's one of the things that I also had problems with to promote is that I never hung out with anybody. I was not a recluse, but I don't really know how to hang out with people. So I don't know what the kids are talking about these days as far as slang goes. I have no idea.
I thought it was worth a try. Hey, at least you learned something new because you got the y'all down in the deep south right there. There's actually a funny pastor who actually says y'all reject Satan, that sort of thing. So that was actually at a mass. I think we had visited the one time just to maybe see. So it was like one of those thick Southern accents. So kind of makes it funny, but at the same time, he's being serious. But
yeah,
what are you gonna do? So maybe we can tell us in the comments below. I want to know some New York slang. So unfortunately, Geoff's a bit of a introvert would be the correct term because we can't really say recluse at this point. So
yeah, I guess so. An introvert.
Oh, whatever. Actually, I'm a little bit of an introvert too, so having these sorts of talks really helps out. So, anyway. So Geoff, we briefed the questions pretty good right here. So I guess let's go ahead and jump to some fun ones, and I guess we'll see what happens along the way. So you ready?
Sure.
All right. So we'll start with the fun ones right here. I guess what would you consider as your favorite movie?
That's a tough one. I've actually been cycling through a few of them in the past couple of weeks and driving my wife crazy. Mad Max Fury Road is an amazing movie. Blade Runner is always another one that I can watch a million times. And those are kind of serious ones. And then Spaceballs. It's a comedy, funny one. Those are three of my faves there.
I go with Spaceballs. Yeah, I do remember watching that. Actually, I think it was funny too because I don't think they pictured it was actually going to do as well as they thought it was going to do when they initially released it.
Yeah. Who could have?
Who would?
That it was good. It was good.
I think that was actually before like Star Wars started having like the big fandom they would have like later on too. So then like afterwards it was like, oh, it's good. So it's a good parody of Star Wars in this case too.
Oh yeah.
And may the Schwartz be with you. That sort of thing. So, man. Yep. Actually, I did use a little clip in one of my YouTube videos. It was actually from that bit. And I think it was because someone asked what my favorite, I don't know if they asked strictly if it was comedy or favorite movie. So I might have just said Spaceballs at the time. So habits tend to change, even though I do like Lord of the Rings. So
yeah. I could go on for hours on favorite movies. So just pick a few there.
Did you see Blade Runner 2049?
Yeah. I kind of liked it. I think it got a bad rap. Yeah, I kind of liked it.
I think it did well. I think it was just because everybody's older now, so you don't have like the traditional cast from like the previous Blade Runner. So it's almost like switching into something new. So I thought it was okay. I didn't really understand the story.
Yeah. The problem, I think, as far as understanding it, was that there was also this anime short that had part of the story in it that you were supposed to watch before or after watching the movie. So that kind of made it weird. So it's not a movie that I've run to watch over and over again, like the first one.
Yeah, I see. A good choice nonetheless. All right. And for the next one, what is your favorite food?
So unfortunately, I am lactose intolerant, but my favorite food is pizza. A nice New York pizza from Manhattan, gooey, salty, oily, or baked ziti. I can never say no to baked ziti. It's really hard to say no to baked ziti, and of course, it got all that cheese on it. Every once in a while, I suffer because I have to have it, but it's rough.
So I was like, I like to be brutalized. It helps my spirit, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Actually, How bad is it with lactose intolerant? Is it just it messes up your digestive tract, or what else does it do?
Well, for me, it's not as bad as other people. Too much information, I get kind of gassy. But yeah, luckily for me, Lactaid works, so I take that.
All right, fair enough. And I'm not sure if it affects you in terms of drinking wise. I guess I imagine they're keeping you away from alcohol too, because I guess does it really affect your, I guess, heart transplant now?
Well, back in about 16 years ago, I just stopped drinking. I didn't like the way I felt afterwards, but up until then, I was like a binge drinker, and yeah. So I'm more. I was more of a cider guy than a beer guy.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I do like more of the apple ciders than I would like traditional beer, for instance. Even though I will hotly contest Bavarian beer, to be honest, I would say Bavarian beer is the number one drink to have. Then again, those Germans do know how to party as well too. Outside of the Irish.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
I don't know about the Russians. I think the Russians are pretty depressing, to be honest. So, and actually, I was going to say, like, Angry Orchard is like my main go-to. I think I tried Reds. I think Strongbow was actually a decent one, but I don't think they advertise that much anymore, to be honest. So, not too sure how it turned out.
Yeah. I'm bad with names, but my cousin owns a restaurant, so every once in a while we go eat there, and she has local ciders there sometimes, so I get to try those. But yeah, that's about it. Like once every 5 months or something.
That's pretty sweet. Actually, I do work in a restaurant as well. I actually tend to be a kitchen assistant, even though I'm gonna go so far as like getting like local ciders, for instance, too. Just more like your traditional beer brands and everything else too. So, What are you gonna do? All right. And what's your favorite non-alcoholic drink?
Water. I mean, I don't think I have a favorite one. I know what I drink a lot of. I drink a lot of Sprite, ginger ale. I'm here in the hospital. The only options are apple juice, water, or ginger ale. So I choose the ginger ale because my wife calls herself a water snob, and I guess I might be included in that. Water tastes different everywhere, and it's got to taste the right way.
I don't know. I think they like produce water differently with adding some sort of, I don't say preservatives because I'm not too sure like what that all entails, to be honest, or artificial flavors or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like there's some waters like Dasani water. It tastes weird, like sort of creamy kind of. It's disgusting. But yeah, got to make sure the water tastes right.
Absolutely. All right, that sounds good. And I guess for the final of the fun questions, what is currently your favorite song?
That's another tough one because I'm constantly listening to music every day, and then I've got music going on in my head. Like for the past 2 days, I've had Van Halen in my head. Well, Van Hagar's, but Dream. I don't remember what it's called, but Dream something. That, and I've got Killing Joke in Saavedra going on over and over in my head.
Sorry about your continue. I think the only one I know with Van Hagar, I think, was his Dreams from like their 5150 album. And I don't think they did another one, really, to be honest.
I don't want to sing it, but it goes higher and higher, way up in the sky.
That's Dreams, yeah. That's just Dreams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, there we go.
That's such a killer album. I would say that was the best one, in my opinion, from the Van Hagar days. So.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, good choice. I think it's always funny because people always seem to like jump around between like. Actually, I think a lot of the answers I got recently from that question, it was always like mostly from like indie artists or baby artists I'd never even like heard before, for instance. So it's always interesting what you hear from people in these interviews.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not cool cat who likes, just indie or underground stuff.
Oh, we're not one of the cool kids right here.
Yeah.
All right. That's all good, though. It's all good. But those are all good choices. I actually remember listening to Van Halen like a religion back in the day. It was actually those little cassette tapes back when you put them in the boombox. I just remember dancing around mostly to the Van Roth days from like the first to like the. Let's just say first to 4 albums, because actually we did have like their 5th album, Diver Down, and in 1984 on CD. So that was a little bit different. Even still, it was part of my childhood right there, just listening to Van Halen. After that, just listening to Vertical Horizon in the car whenever we took like long trips, listening to it from like 1 to 11 the whole way through. So, yeah, music does that to you, so it's all good.
Yeah.
So, Geoff, we're reaching the end of my podcast right here. We've almost talked for an hour a little bit, but I guess, did you have any questions for me or any final words you want to say before we jump to the final question?
No, I'm just excited to be doing this from the hospital. It's weird, but I guess we got to do what we got to do, and it also breaks up my day because I got nothing going on day after day here. So thank you for not canceling when I said this was going to be in the hospital. I was worried about that. But yeah, just thanks for having me on.
Actually, to be honest, when you said that, if you were going to cancel, to be honest, I'd think like, oh, geez, I show up, nothing that just comes up, and we have to cancel the last second. So it's all good. And I do seriously pray for your health and full recovery there, mate. So it'll be good to get you back into music. So, but I guess considering your condition and everything you've gone through, in terms of the final question right here, especially even with COVID too, because some people get lucky and some don't too. So what sort of message of hope could you give to musicians and people out there as we try to move forward in a post-COVID world?
Message of hope. One of the issues I have is sounding corny. I don't like to sound corny, so it's hard to come up with a statement of that kind. Everybody's going through something, so it's not necessarily that people are angry at you. It's just that they're going through their own crap. So give people some space, and the world would be so much better.
If only that were true. So it would be nice. So, and spoken like a true prodigy. So, all right, that's all good. I guess, do you have like any other sort of websites people can reach out to? Do you have like a merch store or anything like that?
Well, I've got the Titanosaur official website, which is titanosaurrocks.com. And I got the merch there, and also on Bandcamp. You look up Titanosaur. I got shirts. Or hoodies, as the kids call them.
You're rocking the hoodies and the hood, that sort of thing. So, all right. That's all good to hear. All right. So, Geoff, we have reached the end of my podcast right here. And everyone, to fill you in, my guest today was Geoff Saavedra. I want to always make sure I pronounce it right, so I have to always look up at your name to make sure I pronounce it right. A.K.A. Titanosaur. There he goes. He doesn't have to charge me $1. I got away with it. So, that's all good. All right. So, this is a damn good interview. We broke boundaries by actually doing it at a hospital. So, it's definitely a different setting, but it's all good. And brave. And I guess send your thoughts and prayers to Geoff here. Hope for a speedy recovery and everything too, so he can get back in the music scene. Now go hit him up on the socials. He's on all platforms as well. So go hit him up there, check out his music and all. And Geoff, I want to thank you so much again for coming on. Stay safe. Back on. Stay tuned, y'all.
All right.